so as always I forget stuff, but I just wanted to thank Drew, who's a long-term supporter of the channel and fellow whisky enthusiast, for sending me a bottle of the Big Brother. So I ended up buying the Wee Brother on the back of it to compare the two. But yeah, thanks a lot for that, Drew, and it's very much appreciated, as well as all the support in the channel, so thank you. Hey, how's it going, and welcome to Whisky Wins with me, Stuart. Today we've got Glenburgie 10-year-old from Na Braithrean. It's the Big Brother. Last week I done the Wee Brother, so if you've not watched that yet, it's probably worth checking that out first just to get the details. But this is 50% ABV, just like the Wee Brother. It's £75 RRP, so it's £5 more than the Wee Brother. It's, like I said, Glenburgie. The only difference here is it's been finished in a Pinot Noir ex Islay cask. So the 10-year-old from previous, if you haven't watched that, watch it now because I'm going to ruin it, but it was a whiskey bin, so I'm hoping the Big Brother will kind of pull up the little brother and help it and show show why finishes are chosen, and why they benefit the whiskey, or why the whiskey benefits from them. So yeah, we'll get down to this. So the nose, there's definitely peat there. That's probably the most evident thing on the nose. There's some salted, kind of brittle caramel, so it's peated, but it's also quite sweet. There's a little bit of a chili spice and probably a jalapeno, is what I would say. It's a little bit honeyed, a little bit malted. It's quite generic with those scents, other than the kind of peated, the caramel brittle. They're more specific, and quite nice. But yeah, it's quite a generic nose. Nothing too risque, nothing too out there. Maybe the jalapeno a wee bit thrown off, but that probably comes from the ex Islay cask. It's a little creamy. Nothing too specific again. Nothing that I could point out. But we'll go down to the palate. I'm going to add water to this. I added water to the Wee Brother, and it benefited a little. So I want to see how this changes as well. So we'll get down to the palate first, and then we'll add water. There's wet hay there. Yeah, it's very distinct wet hay. It's kind of peaty as well. Maybe to go along with the wetness, the wet hay, like a peat bog, a little bit damp, a little bit grimy, a little bit dirty. There's also mascarpone cheese again. I feel like I had that on the Wee Brother. That might have been the finish there. But yeah, it's a little bit fusty, a little bit damp, a little dunnagey in the palate, which is it's interesting enough. It's nothing that's thrown me off the whiskey. It's quite enjoyable with the kind of dunnage elements, the damp elements, a little bit of dirtiness. The wet haze a little bit off-putting, but yeah, nothing too off-putting as a whole. I'm going to add some water to it, and we'll see how the nose changes and how the palate changes with the addition of the water. And I've written notes for this. I've took time to cut it back to see how much water it needs, and I think I've got it to a point where I know roughly how much water it benefits from. So I feel like I've got enough in there now. Yeah, the palate is creamy peat. That'd be the best way to describe it. It's a lot sweeter on the nose now with the water. I mean, I did have the salted caramel in the original nose, but with the water, that saltiness is kind of left the caramel element, and it's now just a kind of brittle caramel, but also with peanuts. I can't remember what the bar is, but you do get like a brittle caramel bar with peanuts through it, and that's what I'm kind of getting on the nose here. There's also some brine and a little bit of barbecue smoke in the nose now with the water, which, yeah, I'm kind of expecting that from the ex-Islay cask. I feel like the Islay cask has really helped kind of pull this Glenburgie up, or this whiskey up. It's really had a positive impact on the whiskey. From the nose anyway. The palate with the water. To continue from the nose with the brine element, I feel like I'm getting kind of dark fruits soaked in brine. I don't know if that sounds enjoyable to you or not, but it's actually quite nice. So yeah, dark fruits soaked in brine. There's tuck crackers, those kind of salted, savoury crackers. It is quite a salty dram, quite savoury. It's a little bit drying because of that, kind of taking your saliva away with the saltiness. But it's interesting. I think with the wee brother I had cream crackers, and now I'm kind of getting like salted crackers. So that's interesting to see that kind of be tied into the wee brother. But yeah, a nice enough palate with the water. A little bit restrained without the water, but the water's definitely opened it up. The finish is long, it's oily, it's smoky, it's a little dirty. I don't know how to describe this, and I don't know what it actually is. Or I do know what it is, I do know what to describe, but I don't know what it is. I don't know why this flavour comes to mind. It's almost off a smell, but when you've had a campfire or whatever, and you've put water over it, or it's rained, and the next again morning there's kind of black lines, black wet charcoal lines running down wherever it is, wherever the fire is. It's that kind of almost wet charcoal, wet smell, but it's in the finish. Sorry. So yeah, a real kind of barbecue, charcoal, charred element to the whiskey. It's quite oaky in the finish as well. There's a lot of oak elements. You always hear like licking a cask, the inside of a cask. It is kind of like that. It's quite similar if you've ever licked the inside of a cask. So we'll get down to rating the whiskey. If you're new here, I rate my whiskey on 3 things. It's would I buy it again, do I think it's worth it, and would I recommend it. So would I buy this again? I wouldn't. The reason is I can get 10-year-old kind of peated or Islay whiskies for cheaper or for a similar price that I prefer more. This is nice, but it's not even obviously an Islay whiskey. It's just been finished in Islay. I think the Glenburgie characters get dominated a little bit by the cask, which from my experience with the last bottle, I actually prefer the cask dominating it, because I wasn't enjoying the wee brother on its own and the bourbon. I didn't like the experience I had there. But I much prefer this experience. However, I just wouldn't buy a bottle again because I feel like I could get that elsewhere where I wanted it. Do I think it's worth it? It's tough. It's tough to say with this one because I don't think it's that bad. I'm enjoying it, but I don't think I'm enjoying it to spend £75 on it or say £75 worth it. I can't really tell you what the worth of Glenburgie would be because I've not had a lot of it, unfortunately, but it doesn't seem like it's not a very attractive distillery. It's not a highly praised distillery, so it's interesting to see the price tag being £70 for the wee brother and £75 for the big brother, because it seems a little bit expensive, a little bit premium. So for me, it's not worth it. Would I recommend it? Yes. So I would recommend it. I think it's interesting. I would almost say recommending them both. Last week I gave the wee brother a 0 out of 3, but I would recommend the experience of trying both. That would be interesting for someone else to see the side by side, and this is why I give samples out of it. But I wouldn't buy the wee brother on its own, or I wouldn't recommend the wee brother on its own, whereas I'd recommend this on its own. It's interesting enough, and it's got some nice flavours in there. It's only 1 out of 3, so it's a whiskey bin again. Both bottles getting a whiskey bin, I feel so bad. It doesn't happen often. I don't like doing these reviews, as I stated in the last Whisky Wins video, the last Glenburgie with Na Braithrean, but these ones have just not hit the mark for me, and it might be something to do with Glenburgie. I have had Ben Rinnes, wee brother and big brother from Na Braithrean, and they were nice, but they're only samples, so I couldn't review them. But now that I've spent some time with these bottles, I felt like they had to be reviewed, but I'm just struggling with them. Although I much prefer the big brother, it's still a little lacklustre, a little lacking from what I would normally drink or normally want. So yeah, it's a whiskey bin. That's all I've got to say. I've been Stuart, this has been Whisky Wins. I'll see you later.